Welcome, pile number 5. Oh my gosh. If some of you were called to watch all of these piles, I don't know in which order you were called to watch them, but if you did watch them in order, thank you so much for hanging in there. For those of you who have only chose this pile, welcome to your reading. Oh, you guys, this has been quite an amazing journey. And of course, when I looked down, it was the number 28. You might want to pause this. You might want to get some paper and pen and take some notes. Also, I'm not sure if we'll get to it in this reading, but for the other readings, I was instructed to pull some crystal oracle cards. And so I'm going to list them under each reading. With this one, an actual oracle card came into your reading. You had many oracle cards, crystal cards, excuse me, I meant to say crystal oracle. Oh, fairies. Oh my gosh, the fairies. And just so you know, you guys, everybody else, all the 5 piles, I pulled them all on March 9th under that amazing full moon, right when it was at full blast. I did this amazing reading. I had no idea it was going to consume my week like this, but it has been the most magical, magnificent week because I didn't realize how much we all needed to deal with past life stuff. So you know now that if you chose this pile, it's because something about Atlantis was pulling you. So there's something from your past life in Atlantis that you need to rectify in order to move forward in this lifetime. So, as I've been doing with the other ones, I'm actually going to, I'm not going to read all of the cards. Some of the cards are just there as a guide and some of them are just there as a symbol. But before I start this, Spirit wanted me to point out, look at these cards, you guys. Now, there are a plethora of cards before you, but I also have a plethora of cards to my right that I've already pulled. And like I was about to say earlier, you're the only pile that pulled a bonus card at the end, and that's from the Fairy Tarot. Of course. But it's so interesting. And no, they're saying I can say this first. Okay, so basically, when I was pulling all of these piles, this one was the one I did last. And I was pulled to all of these. That's why I was pulled to do this reading, because I am really going through some intense shedding at the end of this winter, at the end of this astrological cycle, as we move into Aries. I have used all of the energy. Oh, look at the little thing floating around there. I have used all of the energy that was offered to me in order to really move through this. And I wanted to share this gift with all of you because, I mean, like I said, it's for me too, but I mean, the things that I've been seeing with each pile, and, you know, if you were pulled to more than one pile, I encourage you to watch them because your gut is telling you to, so listen to it. But when I pulled this one, every reading had a different feel. But this one, this was for my scientists. This was for my Atlanteans. Now, you have lived many lives, but you did have a life in Atlantis. And so Spirit wants me to pull your eyes to the 2 Moonology cards that we pulled together. One is the new moon in Pisces, and one is the full moon in Pisces. I mean, look at those fish. And look at the 2 dolphins on the Atlantis. I mean, come on, you know, you can't make this shit up. So, you know, this could be multiple level meanings for you. I would never say I saved the best for last because every reading was amazing. And as you've seen, you know, pile number 3 had 3 videos. You may have more than one video. I have no idea what's going to take place, but you know, you take from it what you need, leave behind what you don't. This is a large, intense reading from multiple people. So obviously it's going to hit and trigger some people and, you know, some places and other people and others. So I just ask that you listen to your gut, feel the pings, feel the angels' hands on you. You know, as always, I always call in my own guides, but then I called in all the ancestors from like our lifetimes from Atlantis and the Atlantean ancestors in general. And I love that my little Christmas Santa guy, I use him as Father Odin on my altar, but he wanted to come in here. And it's interesting because At first I had him hiding the tree, and then they were like, no, like, it's kind of like, I feel like he's, first of all, there's so much female feminine energy in this reading. And I feel like, and water, there's so much water and fluidity, and like animals that like, you know, play in water and stuff. But also I feel like he came forward to be like, you know, a masculine, to give us some balance with all the feminine energy. And like I was going to say, there's so many of you that are, let's just say, scientist brain. You know, that doesn't mean you're a scientist. That just means like you're a little more analytical, right? So I'm going to read the card, what the card says. But like I said, it's going to hit each of you differently. So I'm going to ask you now to just close your eyes. And I'm going to ring a bell. So I just want to tell you that so you don't get scared. And keep your eyes closed, keep your eyes closed, keep your eyes closed. Do some breathing, whatever breathing makes you feel comfortable. Just make sure you breathe. I just heard somebody say, not too loud. Okay. Okay. We won't go too loud. Some of you are really sensitive. One more. Keeping your eyes closed, listen and feel. Your lifetime in ancient Atlantis is affecting your current situation. You have soul memories of this idyllic civilization that offered every imaginable wonder. There's a longing for the utopia that you unconsciously remember and which you know is possible in this world. Your soul also remembers the tragic ending of Atlantis, and you may have developed phobias about the ocean as a result. And although you love the sea, perhaps you prefer not to go swimming or sailing. You also recall how the majority of Atlanteans were peace-loving, with the exception of a few political leaders who misused crystal power to the detriment of all. So you may be extra sensitive to issues relating to political corruption in this lifetime. It's interesting because the next card after that, we didn't pull it, but my eyes were pulled to it and to show it to you. But the next card is authority figures. So for some of you, I was getting a lot of hits. And actually, when I went to close the book, one thing was almost like in bold that was under authority figures, and it said power hungry or abusive. And I feel like you guys, you know, you were always fighting for the greater good. And all of your lifetimes, you've always been fighting for the greater and higher good. Some of you may have done it through science, through technology. You know, you saw what this world, what this earth could provide. So you wanted to make it a bigger and better place. It's interesting because with the other readings, certain things we were drawn to talk about, like the cards on the table we were drawn to talk about first. But with you guys, by the way, take a breath, take a breath. Let's take a drink of water. We're only 8 minutes in. Take a drink of water. Breathe, you guys. You got this. Breathe, 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 breathe. Breathe. Sounds like some of you guys need to take some breathing workshops, myself included. I literally will hear my spirit guides sometimes literally say, breathe. And I'll be like, oh yeah. You know, and that's when I realized I'm not grounded, right? So I think it's interesting that even though Spirit had me pull the Pisces in with the new moon and the full moon, kind of like this balanced energy, do you see how like the full moon is higher? It's not that I didn't do that on purpose because, obviously I did this, like I said, on the full moon. Today is actually the 12th, which is, 3/12/2020 comes out to the number 10, which is the number of completion. And we just had this in pile 4 as well. So we're going to pull more cards, but they're wanting you to see that there's an imbalance there, and you're at the completion of something, But in order for you guys to like really, really be done with it, and like I said, there's multiple messages here, so take from it what you need, leave behind what you don't, blah, blah, blah. But for some, do you hear me take a breath? I'm like, I used to sing too. You think I'd like have better breathing things. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? It's like, there's this like, this imbalance that's happening. And even though the fish are in balance, it's like, you need to get rid of whatever this is from this past life in Atlantis. They had me keep the cards exactly where they were, and now they told me I can move them around. So I'm going to come up a little bit closer. You know, like, look at this imagery. Like, what does it mean to you? I apologize, I'm losing light. But I heard to do it this way. These last few readings were on more of like a dull light, which is fine. Okay, so what is it, you know, what do you feel when you look at that? You know, I see the columns, like, yeah, it's like kind of sad, right? Like, you know, in our world, if you saw that right now, it would be sad, right? Because nothing lives underwater. Like, we don't have people that live underwater anymore in our world, right? Like, we're on the ground. So if we saw that, that would look like a ruin, so to speak. But it's all in the way you look at it, right? It's all about perspective. And so, you know, they're wanting you to kind of like, you know, look at it like, you know, this isn't like old and, you know, this is new there. That's beautiful actually there. You know, that's what's in the ocean. Like that's what would grow on it. You know, it looks like seaweed or whatever. So they're saying balance, spirituality, and practicality. And they're having me read you that first because we're going to go to this card that I just pulled. And we'll get to some of the other ones in a minute. But you pulled the Jaguar. The Jaguar. But sadly, Jaguar was in reverse. So we're going to put Jaguar over here right now. And this says, Sacred Jaguar, teach me to wear my power lightly, to walk with impeccability, to approach life with compassion, and to live up to the integrity of my human potential. The Jaguar, you guys, is all about integrity and impeccability. And, you know, I've been talking about this a lot. And I don't know which readings you've heard, but I've been talking about how I've been putting Post-its around the house. And one of the things I have is, I should know it by now, but it's all about integrity and impeccability. And so it was interesting to me when I read that, even though I've read the Jaguar before, it's like it didn't really hit me until I was like, oh my gosh, it says it in that Post-it. And it's what I've been talking about, right? I said like the word for 2020 was integrity. Remember I had said that in like previous readings, you know, around the new year. So this says, if Jaguar is hanging upside down from the tree limb today, you may have created an enlightenment trap for yourself. Has the misuse of authority kept you from walking your path with impeccability? Have you betrayed your personal integrity to accommodate others? Are you engaged in some activity that lessens your potential? If so, call your spirit or your energy back. Integrity requires a forgiving and open heart. Compassion and mercy are also needed. Self-blame or pointing fingers at others shows your lack of integrity. In the contrary, Jaguar always warns you to correct any need to control others, any abuses of influence, any form of manipulation, moralistic judgments, dishonesty, hidden agendas, envy, greed, or victim-like jealousy that may be affecting your life. If you have slipped, allowing a temporary lapse in impeccability to compromise your integrity, you need to rectify your misdeeds. Jaguar reminds us, become impeccable, use integrity, and you will thrive. I think that's the thing that's up in my bathroom. That's awesome. It's really close to that. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to give you guys some tough love. You know, it's not always fun to be the bad guy and be the messenger, but I have to do this because, you know, if you called on, you know, me to be this person, then you did. So here we go. I really had a hard time, as much as I was excited to do this reading, and I was very excited to do this reading, not just because it was the last one, but because when I was pulling the cards on Monday, I was like, oh my gosh, this reading is going to be so much fun. I'm like, this is awesome. But then when I as I started like setting up the stage for it, and as I started like going through the cards, and like Spirit was telling me which ones to put up and which ones to put down, so much was coming through for so many people. And I saw so many faces and so many people I knew and people I don't even know, maybe not yet. But I was seeing faces that I don't even know. It was like romper room as the faces were going by. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is going to be a tough one, because you guys are that's why I said you guys are like my scientists. Like, you know, it's like everything has to be a certain way, and, you know, you have to do it by the formula, and you have to do it by the book. And man, I was like, after this whole week of me like shedding things and, you know, whatever, I was like, you know what, I don't want to do this. I was like, But you know what? I was called to this pile too. And you guys are just mirrors for me as I am for you, right? I don't know the rubber glue stuck on you bounce off I always forget it. I always remember it when I don't have to think about it. I am rubber, you are glue, right? Whatever sticks on me bounces off you. I don't know. I don't know. All I know is this was not going to be super fun for us, and I say us because I'm included too. But at the same time, this is the medicine that we need. This is the shit we got to hear, you guys. And we can't keep pretending like it isn't what it is. You know what I mean? Like, we have to live with integrity, and we have to be impeccable, and not just like, you know, showing the world one face, but in the end, you're actually kind of being, you know, you're not really doing it. You're not walking the walk. You're not talking the talk 100%. Now, this isn't all of you, obviously. Hold on. Spirit's giving me a message. Oh, that's so interesting. Oh boy, here we go. We're getting schooled. The jaguar just gave us some medicine, but the turtle's coming in. And I wasn't sure if we were going to do it in reverse or upright or both. And I heard both. But look at that turtle. Do you see how he's kind of looking at us a little stern? It's a number 10, by the way. Number of completion again. Yeah, he's looking at us a little stern there because, you know, turtles, Mother Earth. It's earth energy. It's old energy. And we are really old, and also a water creature, right? You know, there's a reason why this is all coming in, right? The Pisces are trying to tell us right now to be fluid, to be like water. That's like a huge part of what they were trying to tell us, was to be like water, be fluid, you know, float, flow. I had, well, I guess it's not meant to be right now. I was going to say, I had this one book that I thought we would be reading from, but no, I can't. Oh, there it is. Oh, I heard not yet. That's why. Okay. So we are going to be pulling some more. Hold on. Like I said, I'm like, I thought your reading, our reading, this is like so much different than, so yeah. So I'm hearing curmudgeon. Some of you are a little curmudgeon. Not everybody, but some of you are curmudgeon. And you know what? It's your job to spread the light. And number 59, right? And even 59, the next number would be 60. So it's like the end of something, right? But even, you know, if you put 59 together, that's, you know, 14, and 1 and 4 is 5. So it's all about change, right? You change your mind, you change your life. You change the way you look at things, right? Change the way you look at things. It's time to like shift your thinking. And boy, oh boy, Spirit of Air wants to come in. And this is from the Native Spirit deck. Oh, okay. They say they want to, somebody just said, oh, I want to see that card. Okay. I'm like, okay. Spirit of Air. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Lying awake on a wing and a prayer. I don't know all the something. Who could it be? Believe it or not, it's just me. That's a song from like this show, like 70s, 80s when I was a kid. But, you know, I'm going to read the Spirit of Air card, but there's a reason why they wanted me to sing you that silly song. I really loved that show, and he was a superhero. Why can't I think of it right now? Oh, and by the way, this was my my morning tea. Oh, they said put it up there. You can just read it. It says, your potential self is infinite. They wanted that in there. Your potential self is infinite. And why they're saying potential self is that you have this imagery of who you are, yet you're like standing in your own way to achieve it. And you think you know better how to get there instead of like being like, hello, spirit, your higher self, you know, knows better. You know, every time we think that we have accomplished, you know, some major thing and we're like, wow, I'm so awakened. I'm so, you know, whatever. It's like, yeah, but that's just the beginning. You know what I mean? It's like, that's just the beginning of another cycle. That means that something else just ended, but something new is about to begin, right? So like you're at the end. So they're showing you like 10, but also now it's time to like find out like what is keeping you from your life in Atlantis. Like, what is it there? What do you need to heal from there to help you in this life to get you to the next stage? This card says, clarity and expansive perception of life is emerging. You're being advised to see life from a higher perspective. Clear out mental clutter. Breathe. Right? All is well. Do not be concerned. The cobwebs are being cleared away. Communicate your truth. And what I'm hearing is communicate your truth to yourself, and then everything else will follow, especially with your spirit guides. Because what I'm hearing is that you're like, it's like these false truths. Like you think like spirit can't hear your thoughts or they can't hear, you know, and it's okay to have a dark side, by the way, you know, like we all have one, we all have to deal with, right? So maybe there's something from your shadow self, from your Atlantean. Hello, pretty bird. Maybe there's something from, you know, that part of your life in Atlantis that, you know, is what you don't want to look at. And maybe it's a part of yourself in this life that you don't like, but they're saying, yeah, but evolve it then. Like, how can you take that part of you? Because it's part of you. So you have to love it. You have to embrace it. You can still spread the light and not be like this morning. I mean, Ed was like making coffee and I was so frustrated with him because I said, can you just try and, you know, be really quiet? And he's normally really, really good. And he's like, yeah. And long story short, I kept hearing, I'm just like, make this noise, but I kept hearing this. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I literally heard it in my dream. And like, and then it like, and I remember in my dream saying, what is that? Or what's that knocking? Or what's that clicking or something? And then all of a sudden I woke up and I hear, and it's Ed, he's trying to light the stove. And I'm like, oh my God. I wanted to kill him. I was like, Edward, I'm like, really? I'm like, how is that not being quiet? And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. He's like, I can't get it lit. I'm like, there's like 3 other lighters in this house. I'm just like, we live in a, you know, 26 by 10 foot space. We live in a tiny home. I'm just like, really? And then I was trying to be really, really cool about it until finally I couldn't fall back asleep and I was so pissed and I'm like, damn it. And I got up and I'm like, I'm just going to pee. And I was trying to be nice at first, but then it's like, you know, it was like the more he was like being nice and quiet, it was like the more I was like getting frustrated. And I'm like, oh no, it's 6:30 in the morning. I'm wide awake. Like I don't have the same schedule as him. And we're on a time change. This whole week I've been a curmudgeon because as much as I've loved this spirit work and I have worked intensely with spirit for several hours every day since Monday, and it's been amazing. It's also like, I'm tired and I'm like, I need to fucking sleep. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. I've been swearing all day today. So I've been swearing like a sailor because of that, right? Like I'm just worn down. I'm worn down. And it's interesting how we can just like forget to breathe and forget like what we need and like, and not communicating, you know, like what we really, whatever. So I could have left it that way because I could see that I mean, the look on his face was like a puppy that peed on the carpet, you know, and I was just like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, and then I go back to bed and I'm laying there and then I hear him like cleaning up and he's leaving. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, did he chug that cock? And I'm like, oh no. And I said, hey, I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I said, you know, I'm working through a lot of dark shit this week. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And it wasn't like, you know, because I realized that there's a difference when you're manipulating people to get them to do what you want. And then there's a time where you realize like that you did something that was shitty and you didn't mean to like make somebody feel that way or you didn't mean to whatever, but like, you're like, okay, you know what? I'm going to make this better. And we have the power to change it. And I feel like the old me would have probably just like left it there and was like, it's okay, it's fine, whatever. And then he would have gone off to work and it would have been like, bye, you know, and like see you later. But instead I said, hey, are you in a hurry? And he's like, no. And I said, well, how much longer do you have before you have to leave? Because he was going to a job. And he's like, I don't know, about 10, 15 minutes. And I said, you want to come lay in bed with me and snuggle for a few minutes? And he was like, yeah. He's like, I'd love that. And I was like, oh my God. And then like when we were laying there for a minute and I turned around, we were looking at each other face to face. And I said, I'm sorry for being cranky McCranker pants or something like that. I said something really funny and we both started laughing and it just changed everything. And, you know, and I said, I'm sorry. I'm like, and not like the before where I realized I would like behave badly. I would keep it in because I'm spreading the light, right? I'm spreading the light and I'm like, la, 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 la. I'm a fairy. I'm happy. La, 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 la. I'm a fairy. I can take a lot. Until I can't. And then I explode. Well, that's like something that we don't realize is actually a form of toxic manipulation, because even if you turn around and apologize, the wound is still there. The wound is fresh. And Edward and I have been working through this a lot because we've both done it to each other. So we're starting to recognize and witness like how our behavior makes such a huge impact on our lives and on our relationships with ourselves and with each other and like with other people. So it's interesting that Spirit said that. It's like, I feel like you guys are like, you know, you're trying so hard to control all of this. And I love you because remember when I'm saying these things to you, I'm also saying them to myself, you know, but the egomaniac has got to subside. It's time. I mean, you know, there's something really awesome about being humble about our gifts. But when we're learning our gifts or we're really honing our craft, it's easy to fall into the ego trips. I heard drink some water. We're hanging in there, you guys. We're hanging in there. By the way, I was also supposed to tell you that it wasn't just Piscean energy. I think for some of you, you're actually dealing with Pisces in these situations because we're talking about romantic relationships, or you're the Pisces. But either way, you know, and look at what your moon and your sun and your rising are, because those signs are just as important. You know, when people are like, man, you are such a Sagittarius, I'm like, yeah, that's because my sun and my rising and my sending, like, I think it's like my top 5 are all Sagittarius and my moon's in Scorpio. But man, I look at Scorpio because I am so in tuned with Scorpio's energy, of course, because it's water. I'm fire. That's what keeps me balanced, right? But the moon is that's like an intense energy. And you guys had that too. When you started, you had the full moon in Pisces and the new moon in Pisces. And the full moon, when it's in Pisces, is, did I say December? I think I was thinking Gemini. Sorry, you guys. So when the full moon's in Pisces, it will be whatever 6 months from now is, because it's always like, so what is that? Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Taurus, excuse me, Cancer, Leo, Virgo. Oh, that's interesting because we just had a full moon in Virgo. But the new moon in Pisces, we just had. So that might be a culmination card for you guys. I'm not 100% sure yet. Anyway, they had me share that story with you. When I looked down, it said 2813. Wow. And you can look any of these angel numbers up that I talk about. But they had me share that story with you because it does make a huge difference how you're going about in the world. And, you know, Turtle said he's going to take a step back for a second because, or actually, no, he's going to stay there. Oh, we're going to take a step back from the light because the porcupine wants to come in. We're going to finish reading the Spirit of Air, and then we're going to talk about the porcupine. Or they're saying, like, you kind of get it, but there's also some medicine from the porcupine there. So breathe, all is well. Do not be concerned. The cobwebs are being cleared away. Communicate your truth, right? And so that's why they have me tell you that whole story. So you can communicate your truth without being abrasive. And also I'm hearing, stop saying that's just the way I am. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because I've said that too, and it's not true. We are loving light beings. We are pure, loving light beings. We are prolific healers, you know? And so if you are here and you are part of this soul tribe, you have a place here, right? So you are dealing with your stuff from your past, from Atlantis. So that's what's carrying forward. So if you're not communicating your truth, or if you're saying, well, that's just who I am, it's like, I don't know if that's true, because what I'm hearing is it's like, no, that's who your ego is telling you who you are. So like maybe when you were a kid, you were trying to protect yourself from like your parents or your friends or school, church, whatever, people trying to, you know, conform you. They wanted you to conform to their world, and you're this total nonconformist. Of course you are. Look at your fucking reading, man. You know, it's like you're a nonconformist. You're a believer. You're a fighter for truth. I mean, that's what they're even saying at the beginning. But if you're not communicating your truth with love and integrity and impeccability, then you're just being a prickly porcupine, you know? And that can go one of two ways, right? So a porcupine, you have your quills up because you're like, don't touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me. You don't want anyone to get into your heart. You don't want anyone, you know, no one's going to, you know, ain't nothing going to break in my stride. You know what I mean? But you're keeping everybody at bay, but while you're doing that, you're not really loving yourself, and you're not like loving anyone back because you're so afraid of getting hurt. And so you've got like this huge facade. That's why I was saying that this was a tough one, because there's so many of you that are like putting up this fake facade. That's why they're talking about like having, you know, in the physical world, like who are you in your spiritual world and who are you in your everyday world? They should be the same. You know, I talked about this in one of the other readings about, you know, integration, you know, like, you know, integrating. So it's like for some of them, I'm giving you an example. I'm like, I want to show you my new fancy ring Bailey gave me though. Look at that. That one wanted to come in. I can't move my hand like that. But integration, right? So like, if you look at it like this, so this is like your old self, and this is like your new self, but they're all you, right? But you need to heal the old stuff before you can allow the new stuff to come in. Well, you guys, you're kind of half integrated. You're here, but you're not like fully together, right? Read my palms. You know what I'm saying? You're not fully together. You're kind of somewhere in between. And so you're fighting it. The other side of the porcupine is that you're shooting the quills out. So you're like really quiet, you're whatever, and then you just get really pissed off, and you're just like blowing off steam so fiercely that you're just like hitting people. Who's ever in, you know, that radius is going to get hit by those quills. They're going to get hit by that debris, and it is not fun. It is prickly. So, you know, that's a hard one. And I've been the porcupine. And I can still be the porcupine sometimes, so I don't want to like, you know, sound like an egomaniac myself, but I'm just saying like the porcupine was one I worked with a lot when I was going through, you know, my awakening. Oh, look at Badger. Badger wants to come in right after the porcupine. Also, and some of you, man, you're fierce, fierce, fierce like the Badger. You're like, I will cut a bitch. You're like, I will cut you, just stay away from me. And you're just like, or you're feeling like that on the inside. It's like the little you is like, but like on the outside, you're like, yes, of course I'll come. But on the inside, you're like, I don't want to go. I don't want to be there. They're like, then don't go. Then be fierce like a badger and hold your ground and say, I don't want to go. And see, I like how these cards, like they wanted me to point this out to you guys. Like, they said not that one, just this one right now. But see how the 29, but remember we were talking about the other card about going in stages, right? So like I said 59, and then it was going to 60. And then to the next part, and you guys, and 10 was about completion, right? Well, the Badger's the same way. It's like you're at that end of that cycle, but like you need to face something like all of this, whatever it is, these obstacles, whatever's resonating with you, because obviously it's not all going to resonate with you, or maybe it will. But you know, it's like the Badger is like your fierce protector, but they're saying like you can still go about it with a loving and kind energy without, like, you can be the spirit of air without being so forceful. So I'm going to finish reading the spirit of air. So take care of details, pay attention, and don't let things slip through the cracks. Take time to hear the truth of others. Spirit is whispering to you. Open your mind to see a situation in a new light.